beyond your actual uniform, what you look like, this might be the most important part, because a lot of times referees will care a lot about their uniform and they won't notice at all their body language, and their body language will literally undermine all the good things they do and all the correct things that they say. So the first starting point is something we've talked about a lot in the book, which is what we call the 4 body cue bugs. These are the 4 most common body language mistakes that we see referees make. And we'll talk about them specifically, and then we'll talk about some general concepts as well. So specifically, let's start with the 4 body cue bugs. Body cue bug number 1, the most obvious. We're looking always to try and get toward what we call open communication versus closed communication. The number 1 simplest way to close off your communication is to simply cross your arms. A lot of times you see people cross their arms higher or tighter the more angry they are, but in general, this is a closed communication stance. So crossing your arms like this, crossing your arms like this, that's the first and most obvious bug. If somebody's talking to you and you cross your arms, or if you're even just watching the game and you're crossing your arms, that's a really bad body language bug, and you should eliminate that as much as possible. Body language bug number 2, keeping your hands in your pockets. That shows that you're disinterested. A lot of times you'll see people put their hands in their pockets and kind of, look around and do something like this. Another version of putting your hands in the pocket is kind of put your hands in your waist like this and kind of keep your hands on your waistband or kind of in your belt loops. Keep your hands out of your pockets whenever possible. Body language bug number 3, putting your hands on your hips. This shows that you're kind of impatient or not really interested in what the person has to say. A lot of times you can have the hips with kind of the turn, and sometimes you can kind of tapping your foot. So basically anytime you have your hands free, putting your hands on your hips, whether you're tilted like this or just straight up, is not a great position. And perhaps one of my favorites, body language bug number 4, is what we call the shrug. In my opinion, there's actually 2 kinds of shrugs. The first kind of shrug is the hand shrug, which is kind of almost an instinctual, automatic shrug where it's like, what do you want me to do about it? And the second is the more, the bigger shoulder shrug, which is the, what do you expect me to do? So you see that shrug pop up in a couple of ways. First, talking with another player or referee, talking with somebody specifically, hey, what do you expect me to do? And the second, a lot of times, is when there's communication across the field between a referee, you get that big shrug, or a referee's like, hey, do you have that block? And you say, well, every single person on the field sees that. So when in doubt, avoid the hand shrug. It's kind of almost an automatic thing. It's hard to turn off, but we call it a bug because you want to squash it. Turn off the hand shrug, turn off the shrug, and turn off the big shrugs too. The shrug with the tilting your head. Those are the 4 big bugs we like to turn off. There's lots of bugs, but those